All right, great. So at this time, we are going to share with you our first presenter. Now, her name is Mrs. Toni and Stewart Alexander, and she is the branch manager at the Montego Bay location of Companies Office of Jamaica. Now, she'll be telling us the basic requirements of being an entrepreneur, how to make things official, as well as how you can, probably share to somebody else about it being an official conversation. So I'm just going to give a little bit of an introduction of her, and then we will jump into the presentation. So at this time, I'm just going to ask Mrs. Alexander to set up her screen while I do her official welcome. All right. So again, everyone, her name is Mrs. Toni and Stewart Alexander, and she is from Companies Office of Jamaica. Now, anybody knows what Companies Office of Jamaica is? Go ahead and drop it in the chat. You ever hear about Companies Office of Jamaica? You have an idea what they're about? Go ahead and let us know in the chat. She is someone who strongly believes that being the change that, no, let me go again. It's a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, and it says, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." That, she believes, is her cornerstone. She enjoys leading a life of service, as she's also a Justice of the Peace for Jamaica and President-designate for the Kiwanis Club of Coastal Trelawney. Her unwavering conviction and dedication to her beliefs are evident in her life and her work. She inspires those around her. She's a proud Christian, a wife, and a mother of 3. She holds an MBA from the Mona School of Business, UWI Western Jamaica campus. And at this time, we invite Mrs. Toni and Stewart Alexander, who is a branch manager from Montego Bay, Companies Office of Jamaica. Over to you, Mrs. Alexander.
Hi, everyone, and good afternoon. The pleasure is mine to be here, and let me just add, I'm a fellow Ardenite, so therefore, big up to all the Arden family that is online.
Woo!
All right, let us begin.
You've thought about it? Dreamt about it? Well, maybe you should just go ahead and do it. Whether you operate a large or small business, you must be registered with the Companies Office of Jamaica. Give your business the boost it deserves by registering today. Companies Office of Jamaica. Protection, freedom, commerce.
All right, so what is the Companies Office of Jamaica? So we are an executive agency and we fall under the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. We oversee 2 types of registration. There's business names, which are for small enterprises, as well as large companies. We have 2 locations, one in Kingston, that's in the New Kingston area, and one in St. James here at Fairview. So if you're serious about business, you need to actually prove it by registering. That is how you are actually legitimate. And that's how you have proof in terms of your legal status. So why do you need to register? 1, you are able to advertise your business and your company. 2, you are able to prove that your business is actually legitimate. You're able to open a bank account under the business name or the company. You're able to access loans and grants, inspire consumer confidence, as well as you are among the list of registered entities that is accessible globally. So many of you may buy things online. So especially for our females, you buy a little nice to hair and wigs and all of these stuff from all of these persons that are advertising. How can you be certain that this person is actually legitimate or they're not scamming you or taking away your money? You can always go onto our Companies Office of Jamaica website to see if the person that you are transacting business with is actually registered and able to legally advertise and operate in the marketplace. So that also inspires your confidence, should in case you actually see that they're registered, to say, yes, I'm able to trust this person and transact business with them. So who should register? Any individual that is buying or selling goods from an established place of business. So if it's a case where you're even operating your business online, remember you're operating from your home. And as such, once it is that you are purchasing or selling from an established place, you need to be registered. Any individual offering services from an established place and operating in a name that is not their own name. So my name is Toni and Stewart Alexander. And if I'm going to be operating under my personal name, then it's not mandatory for me to come to the Companies Office of Jamaica. I can, but it's not mandatory. However, if I'm operating under Toni and Stewart Alexander Consultation Services, then that name needs to be registered because it's a variation of my personal name. Any company that is operating or carrying on business other than its corporate name needs to be registered. So say, for example, you have True Juice. True Juice is a family name, a household name. When you go and you look at packages and you see True Juice, it's easier to remember, as opposed to, say, on the packaging, you're seeing Citrus Trade Winds. So what Citrus Trade Winds came up with is a brand name known as True Juice. So it's more likely would be more catchy so that persons are able to actually identify them when they're making purchases in the marketplace. Who does not need to register? Any person who buys or sells livestock. So these are your farmers. It's not mandatory for them to come and register with us, but they can. But officially they go through RADA. Persons who are occupying public market stalls or paying market fees, they can register with us. However, they are already registered with their local parish council, and as such, it is not mandatory for them to come to the Companies Office of Jamaica. Firms established for social or welfare purposes, such as charities, education, once you're offering any type of services of such, once it is related to charity or social purposes, is not mandatory because you can always go through the Department of Cooperatives and Friendly Societies. So the first thing you need to come up with is a name. You need a catchy name, something unique that, will identify you. It's not offensive, right? And it's not implying that you're connected to any royal family. So you can always do a search to see if the name is available at a cost of $500. You can also go online to check to see if the name is available, or you can come into office to do so. Identifying which one you want to do, whether you want to do a business name or you want to do a limited liability company. It really has to do with you. You have to decide on your personality. Is it a case you want something small or you just want to go large? If you're going to have help in terms of managing your operations, if you're going to make enough money that you want to, save it, you want to open a limited liability company. Is it a case where the service that you're providing is really risky? So you have to protect your assets. So all of these things you have to take into consideration. You also have to ensure that you research, get all the information, and before you decide on which structure is best for you. The first one is a business name. This is a smaller structure. So under this structure, the business owner is not a separate legal entity from the business. So the owner is the business and the business is the owner. And as such, if anything happens to the owner, then it also affects the business. It does not enjoy perpetual succession. So God forbid the business owner dies, then that is the end of the business. The business does not go on. It can be classified as a sole proprietor, which is one person, or a partnership of 2 to 20 persons. And God forbid, if the business is sued, then the assets of the business owner is at stake. And you must be, if it's a case where the business is no longer operating, you must come into the company's office to let us know that you're no longer operating, and as such, close officially. Anything that is bought under the business, any property such as car, or if you purchase a land, it still belongs to the owner. And if it's a partnership, then both of you are owners of the property in common, Or if it's a case where you have a partnership agreement, you can decide when I put 75%, you are only 25%. So anything that the business comes up with or owns, then 75% of it is mine, 25% is yours. And it can be dissolved by one person. If it's a partnership, if one of your business partner decides that they no longer want to be a part of the arrangement, then that is the end of the partnership agreement and partnership, the business name as a partnership. If it's a case, it was 2 persons. What is needed if in the case you need to register? You need a business registration form, which is also called the super form. You need a valid government issued ID. You need a TRN and proof of home address. And if it's a case where you are a non-CARICOM national, then you need a work permit. And certain professions that you are offering specific services, you need to have special certification. So if you're offering barbering services, beauty therapist services, if you're an electrician, if you're providing engineering services, if you're an attorney at law, if you're a medical doctor, you need to provide your certification when you're doing your business registration. What is the cost? $2,500 to register a sole proprietor, which is an individual person, or a partnership of 2 to 5 persons. $5,000 if it is a partnership of 6 to 20 persons, and if it's a case where you have a branch. So if you have established a branch in Kingston and you have another one in Montego Bay, and you're doing that at the initial registration, then the branch that you're operating in Montego Bay, the cost for that will be an additional $1,000. And if it's a limited liability company operating a trading as name, the cost for that is $3,000. And we're now jumping into the next part of the next type of enterprise, which is a limited liability company. So that is the bigger structure. So for this one now, this one enjoys perpetual succession. So if something happens to the directors or the shareholders who actually invest into the company still goes on. If a director decides that I no longer want to be a part of the company or I have tendered my resignation, the company still goes on. It is an artificial entity, but it is managed by natural persons. And this artificial entity is able to open a bank account, transact business, take out mortgages, enter into agreements. This company is able to also purchase property, purchase a vehicle, because it is a separate legal entity as an artificial entity. And this entity actually, the assets of the shareholders who are actually the investors, they are protected under this structure. And if it's a case where the entity is no longer operating, then it must be wound up in accordance with the Companies Act. What is required? You need the articles of incorporation. So this outlines the rules that governs the company. So it sets out the internal affairs. You need the business registration form. You need a beneficial ownership return form, a valid government issued ID, and at least one responsible officer must possess a local TRN. The cost to register, $27,500 in order to do the limited liability company. All right, so let me just recap. What is the difference between the company and the business? The business, the owner bears all the risk. For the limited liability company, it enjoys perpetual succession. So therefore, anybody decides to leave, the company still goes on versus that of the business. For the limited liability, for the company, it enjoys limited liability versus the business. Anything that happens, then the assets of the owners are at stake. For the business name, the property belongs to the owner and the operators of the entity versus the limited liability company, that anything that is bought within the company is owned by the company. And the company must file an annual return every single year, whether they are operating, yes or no. However, the business name, every 3 years, they do a renewal. All right, so on our website, we have a help tab. So under that help tab, we have frequently asked questions. So any question related to business names or limited liability companies, you are able to go on our website and review all of these questions and the answers to your questions. We also have a how-to tab. So this we have uploaded how-to videos. So whether you want to reserve a name, open a, create a new company, create a business name, anything you want to do in relation to this, we actually have uploaded YouTube videos that you can use as a guide in order to do your own subscription. And you can find us on our website at www.orcjamaica.com. And we have our contact number there. We're located. We have social media platforms. So we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, and we're on Instagram. So you can always share and you can always like us and follow us on those platforms.